안녕. Welcome back. For today's lesson, we have a conversation between a passenger and a taxi driver.
Billy, I'm back.
Oh, hey, KeyCat. When did you get here?
Actually, I've been here the whole time, hiding behind the shelf over there.
Wait, really?
And can I just say that you're doing a great job?
Oh, thanks, KeyCat.
But if I could just make one suggestion.
What's that?
Well, I think some of these lessons are getting pretty long, don't you?
Yeah, that's true, but I promised them completely natural Korean conversations, and real conversations can sometimes take a while.
How about separating the lessons into smaller pieces?
I mean, it's not a bad idea, but how could I break up one single conversation?
Here, let me try it. Here.
Okay, go ahead.
I just did. I said here. You can separate the lesson here.
You mean cut the lesson right now and do all the rest in the next lesson?
Oh, no. Not all the rest. Just maybe 1 or 2 sentences, and then separate it again.
KeyCat, that would take forever. I mean, people who are using these videos to study are probably already pausing the videos, so I don't think I need to make them shorter.
Well,
Look, I really appreciate your help, but I think I can handle it.
okay then. But don't say I didn't warn you.
So, anyway, this lesson we have a conversation between a passenger and a taxi driver. While most taxi rides in Korea are straightforward, you tell the driver where you're going, you pay, and you get out when you arrive. For longer rides, it's also common to chat a bit with the driver, especially if you can speak some Korean. It's not uncommon that the driver will ask you some questions like where you're from or just talk about practically anything. So first, let's listen to the full conversation once and then I'll go over it in detail and see what we can learn from it.
안녕하세요. ABC 대학역이요.
네,
얼마나 걸릴까요?
지금 퇴근 시간이라 평소보다 15분 정도 더 걸릴 것 같네요.
그럼 30분 정도 걸리는 건가요?
네, 한 30분? 35분 정도는 걸릴 것 같아요. 급한 일 있으세요?
아니요. 급한 일은 아닌데 친구가 약속 장소에 이미 도착했다고 그래서요.
아이고, 저 앞에 사고도 났는지 평소보다 더 막히는데. 골목으로 가볼까요?
괜찮아요. 그냥 원래 가는 길로 가주세요.
네, 알겠습니다. 가방이 참 특이하고 예쁘네요.
감사합니다. 엄마가 유럽 여행 갔다가 사오셨어요. 뭔가 이국적인 느낌 나고 그렇죠?
어쩐지 흔한 디자인이 아닌 것 같아 보이더라고요. 제 아들도 지금 유럽에 있는데.
어머, 유럽 어디요?
어디라고 그랬더라? 스위스인가 스웨덴인가 그랬던 것 같은데 나라가 꽤 작다고 하더라고요.
아, 그러면 스위스인가 봐요. 유학 간 거예요?
아니요. 원래 사진 찍는 앤데 그냥 뭐 여행한다고 가서 거기서 한참을 있네요.
스위스 경치가 정말 좋잖아요. 사진 찍는 분이면 오래 있고 싶을 것 같아요.
네, 확실히 사진 찍어서 보내주는 거 보면 산도 멋지고 집들도 예쁘고 그렇긴 해요.
아드님 거기 계시는 동안 한번 다녀오시는 건 어때요?
아휴, 저는 자동차 말고 다른 건 못 타겠더라고요. 기차도 잘 안 타요.
저도 친척분 중에 비행기도 못 타고 배도 못 타고 그런 분이 있어요. 아, 저 전화가 와서 전화 좀 받을게요.
여행이 쉽지 않아서 아쉽지만 어쩔 수 없죠. 네네, 받으세요.
Okay, now let's take a look at this conversation one line at a time and see what we can learn. And remember to also take notes so that you can check them later on.
안녕하세요. ABC 대학역이요.
Hello, ABC University Station. Here, a passenger is entering the taxi and telling the driver where they want to go. Names of subway and train stations will end with 역.
네,
Okay,
얼마나 걸릴까요?
how much time would it take? 얼마나 meaning how much or how long, together with 걸리다 means how much time does it take, or just how long does it take?
지금 퇴근 시간이라 평소보다 15분 정도 더 걸릴 것 같네요.
Now it's time to leave work, so I think it'll take about 15 minutes more than usual. 이다 is from 일하서, from the verb 이다, but the 서 form is optional and can be removed. 정도 can be used after an amount of something, here 15 minutes, or a number when making a guess or approximation. However, unlike 좀, which is also used when making a guess or approximation, 정도 can be used in any level of politeness and is used with a space.
그럼 30분 정도 걸리는 건가요?
Then it takes about 30 minutes. 걸리는 건가요? Uses the present tense form 걸리는 것 with 이다. This 것이다 form can be used not only in the future tense, for example, 하다 becomes 할 것이다, but also in the present tense. For example, 하다 becomes 하는 것이다. And in the past tense. For example, 하다 becomes 한 것이다. To use it in the present tense, conjugate the verb into the present tense adjective form, that will be using 는, or to use it in the past tense, conjugate the verb into the past tense adjective form, that will be using 은 or 니은. Using this 것이다 version instead of 걸려요 puts more emphasis on the subject of the sentence. So whoever does the action or whoever is being described by the verb, while using 걸려요 puts more emphasis on the verb itself. However, this difference is small. The same applies to the past tense, 걸렸어요 versus 걸린 거요.
네, 한 30분? 35분 정도는 걸릴 것 같아요. 급한 일이 있으세요?
Yeah, I think it'll take about 30 or 35 minutes. Is there something urgent? 급한 일 literally means something urgent, but is also naturally used to say that something needs to be taken care of right away, such as any non-medical emergency.
아니요, 급한 일은 아닌데 친구가 약속 장소에 이미 도착했다고 그래서요.
No, it's not something urgent, but it's because my friend says they already arrived at the appointment location. 약속 장소 means appointment location, but since a 약속 can be used to mean any appointment to meet someone, this can also more naturally translate as meeting place. 그러다 is commonly used in place of 말하다 or 하다 when making quotes, and means to say so, or just to say that. It can also be used outside of quotes to mean to do so. Here, 도착했다고 그래서요 means it's because they say that they've arrived. Remember that quotes are made using the plain form and 고, followed by a verb that shows how someone made the quote. For example, said, asked, etc. Note that it conjugates as 그래요.
아이고, 저 앞에 사고도 났는지 평소보다 더 막히는데. 골목으로 가볼까요?
Oh my, perhaps because an accident also happened in front of over there, it's more blocked than normal, so should I go to the alleyways? 사고도 났는지 uses the 지 ending, meaning whether or not, which is used for any sort of unknown information. Here, it implies that whether an accident happened or not, it's unknown. The 지 ending can also often translate as perhaps or maybe. So, maybe because there was an accident. How you attach the 지 form depends on the tense and whether the verb is an action verb or a descriptive verb. For descriptive verbs in the present tense, attach 은지 to a verb stem that ends in a consonant. For example, 작다 becomes 작은지. Or attach 니은지 to a verb stem that ends in a vowel. For example, 크다 becomes 큰지. For action verbs in the present tense, simply attach 는지 to the verb stem. For example, 하다 becomes 하는지. Verb stems that end with lir will remove the lir first. So 살다 becomes 사는지. For all verbs in the past tense, simply attach 는지 to the past tense verb stem. For example, 하다 becomes 했는지. For all verbs in the future tense, attach 을지 to a verb stem that ends in a consonant, so 하다 would become 할지, or attach 리을지 to a verb stem that ends in a vowel. So 먹다 becomes 먹을지. Note that this does not include all possible conjugations, since verbs can also be used together with other forms, but it does include the most essential. For one example, 하다 can also conjugate to the future tense normally as 할 것이다, which can then become 할 것인지 or just 할 건지 using this form. Keep your eyes open for other combinations that end in 지 without a space.
괜찮아요. 그냥 원래 가는 길로 가주세요.
It's okay, just please go the regular way that you go. 그냥 is an adverb that can be used in any informal or casual speech and means just as it is. 원래 literally means originally, but is used in everyday conversation to also mean regularly, normally, or just always. Another way to translate this sentence is just go the way you always go. Note that 원래 가는 means that you originally go and uses the action verb 가다, meaning to go, as a present tense adjective. Here, 가는, meaning that you go.
네, 알겠습니다. 가방이 참 특이하고 예쁘네요.
Okay, I got it. Your bag is really unique and pretty. Note that 가방, meaning bag, is specifically a bag that someone wears. To say a bag used to hold items at the grocery store, use the word 봉투 instead.
감사합니다. 엄마가 유럽 여행 갔다가 사오셨어요. 뭔가 이국적인 느낌 나고 그렇죠?
Thank you. My mom bought it for me on a Europe trip. It has a somewhat exotic feeling, right? Double 시옷 with 다가 uses a past tense action verb stem and means that what comes after it happens once what comes before it has completely finished. Here in 갔다가 사오셨어요, it means that the mom went to Europe and then bought the bag there and brought it here. 사오셨어요 is from 사다, meaning to buy, and 오다, meaning to come, which combines into 사오다 and means to buy something and then come here. It's used when someone buys something and then brings it here. The opposite is 사가다, which means to buy something and then go or bring it somewhere. 이국적인 comes from 이국적 and 이다, meaning to be. Together this means to be exotic. 뭔가, meaning something or somewhat, here is being used to mean somewhat. 뭔가 이국적인 느낌 means a somewhat exotic feeling. 느낌 나고 그렇죠 uses the form 고 그렇다, meaning to be so, which is a spoken grammar form that's used to finish explaining something basically without giving too many details. This can be used in many ways, such as 고 그래요, or here as 고 그렇죠. This form has no specific meaning on its own, but can naturally translate here as perhaps it has a somewhat exotic feeling, yeah.
어쩐지 흔한 디자인이 아닌 것 같아 보이더라고요. 제 아들도 지금 유럽에 있는데.
So that's why. It didn't look like it's a common design. My son also now is in Europe. 어쩐지 is used to explain the reason for something when the speaker realizes it for themselves. 보이다, meaning to be visible or to be seen, can be used after a conjugated descriptive verb to mean that something or someone physically looks a certain way. Remember that 같다 can be used after a noun to mean that someone or something is like or looks like something else. Together, 같아 보이다 means that someone or something physically looks like something. Here, looks like it's not a common design. Remember that the 돌아가요 form is used to describe something that the speaker personally experienced but is not always necessary to translate. It can simply translate as the regular past tense, such as here.
어머, 유럽 어디요?
Oh, where in Europe? 유럽 어디요 literally means Europe where, but it's common in speech to use 어디, meaning where, after a location without any particle to mean where in that location. Note that 어머 is most often used by females.
어디라고 그랬더라? 스위스인가 스웨덴인가 그랬던 것 같은데 나라가 꽤 작다고 하더라고요.
Where did he say? I think he'd said Switzerland. Sweden? He said the country was rather small. 그랬던 is from 그러다, here meaning to say so, and this is used to mean he said. Using 그러다 with quoting is especially common in speech, but not in writing. remember that the double 시옷 던 ending changes that verb into an adjective and means that something used to happen in the past but no longer happens. This can naturally translate as had done. Here it means had said. 더라 is a casual and stronger version of the form 더라고요. It is also commonly used when talking to yourself when you're unable to remember something. For example, 내가 뭘 하려고 했더라? What was I trying or going to do?
아, 그러면 스위스인가 봐요. 유학 간 거예요?
Ah, then I guess that's Switzerland. Did he go study abroad? 스위스인가 봐요 uses the verb 이다 with the form 나보다 or 가보다, which means that something seems like it will happen with an action verb or seems like it is with a descriptive verb. This can also naturally translate as I guess that. Just like with the 나요 and 가요 endings, with an action verb stem use 나보다. For example, 하다 becomes 하나보다. And with the descriptive verb stem, use 은가 after a consonant. For example, 작다 becomes 작은가보다. Or use 니은가 after a vowel. For example, 크다 becomes 큰가보다. The past tense uses 나보다 after all verb stems. For example, 하다 becomes 했나보다. While these are the official rules for conjugating 나보다 or 가보다, often in speech, 나보다 will also sometimes be used with descriptive verb stems that end in a consonant. For example, 작다 can become 작은가보다 or 작나보다. However, with descriptive verb stems that end in a vowel, such as 이다 and others, this will still become 니은가보다. Also note that while 보다 is most often conjugated, it can also be left as just 보다 in casual speech.
아니요. 원래 사진 찍는 앤데 그냥 여행한다고 가서 거기서 한참을 있네요.
No, he normally is someone who takes pictures, but just, he said he's going on a trip and went there, and he's there for a long time. ende comes from 에, which is short for I, and the 대 form. Note that while 에 literally means child or kid, it can be used when talking about any person in any non-polite situation. It should not be used to talk about strangers or anyone who you would speak politely about. 뭐, meaning what, can also be used as a filler word without any meaning when you're not sure what to say. It can translate as nothing. Here, 그냥 뭐 has the feeling of saying, like. 있네요 is from the action verb 있다, which means to stay somewhere. Here, the sun is staying in Europe.
스위스 경치가 정말 좋잖아요. 사진 찍는 분이면 오래 있고 싶을 것 같아요.
The scenery in Switzerland is so good, right? If he's someone who takes pictures, I think he will want to stay for a long time. Although the driver refers to his own son using 에, it would be impolite for the passenger to do the same. Instead, the passenger uses the honorific word 분, literally meaning person.
네, 확실히 사진 찍어서 보내주는 거 보면 산도 멋지고 집들도 예쁘고 그렇긴 해요.
Yes, if I look at the photos he takes and sends me, the mountains are cool and also the houses are pretty. The adverb 확실히, meaning definitely or for sure, can also naturally translate as I'm sure. 그렇긴 해요 comes from the form 기는 하다, which is often shortened in speech to 긴 하다. This adds more emphasis specifically to the verb. For example, saying 예쁘긴 해요 means it is pretty, and saying 좋아하긴 해요 means I like it.
아드님 거기 계시는 동안 한번 다녀오시는 건 어때요?
While your son's there, how about sometime going there and coming back? 아드님 is used to mean someone else's son when being extra polite. 동안에 comes from 동안, meaning a period of time, and is used after an action verb stem with 는 to mean while doing or during something. For example, 하다 becomes 하는 동안에. The 에 is optional. When written without a space, 한 번 is used when trying something and can translate as sometime. When written with a space, 한 번 simply means one time or once. However, the pronunciation is the exact same.
아, 저는 자동차 말고 다른 건 못하겠더라고요. 기차도 잘 안 타요.
Phew, I couldn't ride something different besides a car. I don't even ride the train often. 어휴 is a sound made when sighing. 말고 is different than 아니고, which simply literally means it is not. Here, the driver isn't saying that something is not a car, but is saying not a car or besides a car. In addition to meaning well, the adverb 잘 is also commonly used to mean often.
저도 친척분 중에 비행기도 못 타고 배도 못 타고 그런 분이 있어요. 아, 저 전화가 와서 전화 좀 받을게요.
Me too. Among my relatives, there is someone who can't even ride a plane and can't ride even a boat. Ah, I'm getting a phone call, so I'll answer the phone. 친척분 is an extra polite way to mean a relative and is more polite than just saying 친척, meaning relative. 중에 literally means in the middle, but it's also used with people to mean among. Here, 친척분 중에 means among my relatives. The 에 is optional, but is often added. 그런 분 means that kind of person and uses the adjective 그런, meaning that kind of, together with the honorific word 분. Together it means that kind of person. Remember that 좀 can be used to soften the feeling of any sentence. Here it's being used to sound more polite, since answering the phone in the middle of a conversation might be seen as a bit rude.
여행이 쉽지 않아서 아쉽지만 어쩔 수 없죠. 네네, 받으세요.
It's too bad because traveling isn't easy, but there's nothing I can do, right? Of course, answer it. 아쉽다 means that something feels unsatisfying, such as when you feel regret for missing an opportunity or when something is just missing. A natural translation is to be too bad. Okay, now that we've gone over everything, let's listen to the full conversation one more time completely and try to follow along using what we've learned.
안녕하세요. ABC 대학역이요.
네,
얼마나 걸릴까요?
지금 퇴근 시간이라 평소보다 15분 정도 더 걸릴 것 같네요.
그럼 30분 정도 걸리는 건가요?
네, 한 30분? 35분 정도는 걸릴 것 같아요. 급한 일 있으세요?
아니요, 급한 일은 아닌데 친구가 약속 장소에 이미 도착했다고 그래서요.
아이고, 저 앞에 사고도 났는지 평소보다 더 막히는데. 골목으로 가볼까요?
괜찮아요. 그냥 원래 가는 길로 가주세요.
네, 알겠습니다. 가방이 참 특이하고 예쁘네요.
감사합니다. 엄마가 유럽 여행 갔다가 사오셨어요. 뭔가 이국적인 느낌 나고 그렇죠?
어쩐지 흔한 디자인이 아닌 것 같아 보이더라고요. 제 아들도 지금 유럽에 있는데.
어머, 유럽 어디요?
어디라고 그랬더라? 스위스인가 스웨덴인가 그랬던 것 같은데 나라가 꽤 작다고 하더라고요.
아, 그러면 스위스인가 봐요. 유학 간 거예요?
아니요. 원래 사진 찍는 앤데 그냥 뭐 여행한다고 가서 거기서 한참을 있네요.
스위스 경치가 정말 좋잖아요. 사진 찍는 분이면 오래 있고 싶을 것 같아요.
네, 확실히 사진 찍어서 보내주는 거 보면 산도 멋지고 집들도 예쁘고 그렇긴 해요.
아드님 거기 계시는 동안 한번 다녀오시는 건 어때요?
아, 저는 자동차 말고 다른 건 못하겠더라고요. 기차도 잘 안 타요.
저도 친척분 중에 비행기도 못 타고 배도 못 타고 그런 분이 있어요. 아, 저 전화가 와서 전화 좀 받을게요.
여행이 쉽지 않아서 아쉽지만 어쩔 수 없죠. 네네, 받으세요.
And that's all for this lesson. Remember that natural Korean conversations can range from beginner level all the way to advanced level. So take your time, practice everything in this lesson and rewatch it if you need to, and I'll see you again in the next lesson. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.